Welcome to this week's edition of Dugout Dish Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, as usual, Coach Glasser. What's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, man. Looking forward to discussing some more topics today. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we have two clashing franchises in the NFL world that are battling it out on this Thursday night. So for those of you who don't know, I'm an avid 49ers fan, and Coach Glass is a Giants fan. So we'll see what unfolds later tonight. But any thoughts on that game real quick, Coach?
Still got to play the game.
Still got to play the game. All right. Man, that's why they play the game. We'll see what happens.
We record these long in advance, so you might see this in another 3 weeks. But here we are.
All right. So tonight we are going to talk about recruiting plans, recruiting strategies, mindsets, ways to tackle this from a couple different angles. So we're going to look at it from the angle of a 2025 who's getting ready to embark on their junior fall and build into their offseason, going into their senior spring. We'll hit some points around that, things to focus on, areas that we think are really important for guys. And then we'll talk about the 26s and how some of the new recruiting rules and different elements of recruiting as a whole have impacted that. And we'll dive into some strategies there. So as far as the 25s, Coach, I'm going to kick it over to you to kick it off, but you know, it's mid-September. You're 2025 and you're uncommitted. I think there's a couple different scenarios we can walk through, but I also think there's some fundamentals that kind of bleed through everybody here. So I'm going to kick it over to you to get started.
Yeah, there's first if you're not committed as a 25, it's obviously not the end of the world. It's you have plenty of time to be recruited. Everyone's timeline is slowed down with the rule change in contacting people and being able to get out on the road. You know, the transfer portal has obviously slowed things down because people can plug and play year after year with some transfer guys that are already college proven. So, it's probably going to play that way out for a little bit longer. But I think, the importance right now, if you are a 25 and you're being lightly recruited or looking to get recruited, is to start to formulate a plan on how you can go about becoming recruitable, right? Like there's a difference between wanting to be recruited and actually being able to be a recruitable potential student athlete. And it starts with an honest assessment of where you're currently at in the process of your skill set, your academic profile, all of those things that are going to be components that are going to go into what it is you're looking to do in college, right? Like, if you're a 3.0 student right now and you aspire to go play in the Ivy League, like you're going to have to do some stuff academically to get you further along in advance to be competitive from an admission standpoint there. If you're somebody who aspires to play Division I baseball and you don't necessarily have the skill set to play Division I baseball right now, then you need to have honest conversations and get that feedback to know what it is that you need to do in order to get yourself into the mix from a recruiting standpoint there. And that's could be anything from skill work to more time in the gym to, more time actually hitting and throwing and whatever it is that it's going to do specifically for you. And then from there, it's going to be, what team am I playing for? What tournaments are they going to? What showcases are available? What camps, what clinics, what things can I do to maximize my exposure and be able to get out in front of as many people as possible so that they can make a decision on me as to whether or not I'm going to be A, recruitable, and B, recruitable for that program that I'm either interested in or may not know about, and people start recruiting me and now I'm interested in them, and we see if that's going to be the potential fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me, if you're a 25 right now, is don't panic. Like there's just no reason to. As you had alluded to, like things have slowed down. We've talked to dozens of coaches, and a lot of these guys, they are not rushing on 25s. They don't have to, because unless you're a guy that's really jumping off the page and you're a can't miss guy for a particular school, most of these guys are very comfortable going into the offseason with names that they can track, that they can follow, and they're going to see how guys progress. Because, if you're that right-hander who's 84 to 86 right now, like, yeah, you're probably tracking to be a Division I arm. But if I'm a Division I coach, unless you do something really special, or I feel really good about who you are as a kid and a competitor and where you're going, I got no problems waiting to see how you develop. Maybe try to see you throw in the fall, track you throughout the winter. And I think that's a stance that a lot of guys are taking, because they don't want to rush to make a decision on somebody that they don't feel 100% comfortable about. And I mean, you've seen it. I've seen it. Kids make huge jumps. This offseason in particular for 25s, kids make massive jumps. Yep. Physically. And if you're a player listening to this, or you're a parent listening to this, being organized around, this is what I'm trying to get out of it, and this is the area I want to be in, this is the level I think I can play at, back to the honest evaluation piece. These are the academics that I have in mind. If you start to compile some of that, you're ahead of the game. But the biggest thing you can do is put your head down and work. Get after it. Like a lot of guys, and we've talked about this in a couple podcasts, but I think it's pretty apparent that there's a lot of kids out there who think they work hard because they go to their hitting guy a couple times a week, or they're in the weight room, 45 minutes, 3 days a week. Like, the reality is you're probably not separating yourself from your competition all that much. So if you're that fringy Division I guy right now, and maybe you're getting a couple phone calls from Division I schools, which is fantastic. That should be the fire that you need, the fuel that you need to go, all right, well, I want more of this. I need to get after it. And if you're the kid who's not getting recruited right now, instead of the woe is me and nobody knows what they're talking about, how about, what do I need to do to put on 10 pounds this offseason? What do I need to do to add 5-6 miles an hour of velocity? Because there's going to be a ton of spots open. And there will be a ton of spots open all over college baseball next spring and next summer. Like, there's no shortage of spots for 25s going into the spring and going into next summer. I think something like 80% of spots aren't even at the Division I level. So to think that there's not going to be a lot of spots spring and summer for Division II and Division III is crazy. And don't panic. Focus on getting better. I think that that's the biggest thing that I would want to really get across to families right now, is this is the time to self-evaluate. This is the time to self-assess, understand what you do well, identify areas that you can get better, and attack those areas. And don't use the excuse of time, because if it's a priority, you'll make it happen, right? Like maybe you don't get to, watch the Giants kick off at 1:00 on Sunday. Maybe you don't get to get in front of the television until halftime. Like, go to the gym, go get your ground balls in, like whatever it is. Like, you're going to have to sacrifice something if you want to do this, because if you think that you're going to get by just doing the bare minimum, you're going to be in for a rude awakening come April, May, June, July, and August of next year.
Yeah, and I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening when you get to campus if you make it there. The one thing that I think runs through all of this is, the reality is, from an NCAA standpoint, you're looking, what is the number they throw out there? 7, a shade over 7% are going to go play college baseball, 8%, somewhere in there. At the Division I, 2, or 3 level. Now that doesn't account for JUCO ball and NAIA baseball, which is really good baseball as well. But you're also competing against kids in Canada who play baseball. When I was at RPI, we had Canadians on our team. I know of 2 coaches right now that are in Canada at a showcase workout, and a third who is at a big time school who wanted to go and couldn't make it. So you're you're also going up against, not only everyone here in America, but also, Canadians and, people from Puerto Rico. And there's a lot of people that you are competing against in order to get a roster spot and scholarship money, hopefully, like whatever that might be. But the thing is like if you're going to be in that top 8%, and for argument's sake and for easy math, let's call it 10% are going to play college baseball, whether it's 1, 2, 3, JUCO, NAI, right? Like you have to outwork 90% of people. And if you want to play at some of the higher levels, like you need to outwork 94, 95, 96, 97% of people in order to get to that level. Like you're going to have people that are just naturally gifted and talented that can get by doing stuff. And eventually it's going to catch up to you because you're going to get to college and be like, shoot, I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball. But by and large, you're going to have to really, really work hard. And to your point, like, you get to college, it's, you're talking 20, 30 hours a week. Like you're just going to say it's 20. But the reality is the amount of work that you're going to be putting into it outside of the days that you're on the field for practice, the extra work you're putting in, whether it's early or late, the lifting, all of the things that are going to go into it it's a lot, and you have to go to class on top of it. And I think I've said it before, like you have, like, getting a C in college is, you showed up and you got a C. Like, equate that to baseball, like you could show up and like you're just going to not play. You do a little bit more and you get a B. Like, hey, I'm playing a little bit, I get a little bit of burn, I come off the bench late. You put in more time and energy and effort, like all of a sudden you're in the starting lineup. And that's, you get to college, it's a 6-7 day a week thing. You might not be doing things 7 days a week, but there's some semblance of baseball that's going to be woven in and out of what you're doing every day of the week for your college career. So if you aspire to get to that level, you need to start understanding that. And I'm not saying that, please, parents and student athletes who are listening to this, like, we're not telling you that you need to exclusively be a baseball player and play no other sports. Like,
far from it.
Go be a dual 3-sport athlete in high school. Like, go do it. I was one. I know you played multiple sports. I wrestled, I played football, and I played baseball. So we're not telling you that you need to go exclusively focus on baseball. Like, I don't actually believe in that at all. What we're saying is you need to understand that, like, the amount of time, energy, and effort that goes into this, you just need to prepare yourself for that. Does that mean that you need to be doing 7 days a week of baseball stuff as a junior in high school? No. But the 1 or 2 days a week might not be enough to get you to your goals that you're aspiring to. That you might have to put in another day or two as you get older. And, hey, I'm not playing, I only play football and baseball. Like, okay, you got the winter to utilize a lot of things to get yourself bigger, faster, stronger. Or, I play soccer and hoops and baseball. Like, okay, like if you do, just make sure we're staying in shape and doing the things we need to do so that, when you get into baseball season, you can shorten down the time frame for you to actually get ready. But you're going to have to put in a little bit more time. And that's why coaches really do like recruiting multiple sport athletes, because you can kind of juggle those things and still be, pretty good and be exposed to more. So I digress for a second, but as I was saying this, I didn't want it to sound as though like we're advocating for people to just solely be, one sport specific athletes. Like, no, I couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I want you to be 2, 3, 4 sport athletes. Go do it. The more athletic things that you can do, the better it is for you in your career. It might not end up being baseball. You might end up getting recruited in hoops or soccer or football. But I can promise you, playing those other sports are going to help you in the sport that you end up in.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the important thing here is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're driving at is that if you use time as an excuse, you're using the wrong excuse. Right.
Yes.
And also being able to understand that, like, we're working with a bunch of guys who are playing football this offseason. Awesome. They're getting stronger because they're lifting. They're in better shape because they're playing football. They're more athletic because they're doing things that they're never asked to do on a baseball field. That's progress. That's development. And it's not exclusive to like you go to the gym, you hit, you throw. Like playing pickup basketball, playing basketball in the off season, like that's improving your athleticism. And that's something that, it's hard to quantify how good that is for players. And I think there's a lot of value in putting a ball down. But I think what we're trying to drive at is you need to be pushing towards constant development. And if you can't find 30 minutes 3 or 4 times a week to go and hit, or you can't find 45 minutes 4 or 5 times a week to go get in a good workout, it's probably not enough of a priority for you. And it'll be a rude awakening if you're able to make it to the next level to play college sports, because that's the absolute bare minimum. Like you mentioned 20 hours. That's your standard week on the baseball field, not including all the other stuff that you need to do, the sleep, the food, the weight room, all that good stuff. Is 20 hours feasible for a high school kid right now in the off season for baseball specifically? No, probably not. You probably don't have 4 expendable hours during your day between school, and especially if you're playing another sport. But if you're not 10, 12 hours a week towards physical development and skill development, you're probably not doing enough. And that might be a little bit of a shock to people, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's finding 2 hours, 5 days a week. It shouldn't be that hard. If you really want to play college baseball and you really grasp that this isn't going to get handed to you and that you're not being evaluated in the vacuum of your little town or, whatever state you're from, that should be enough for you to go, all right, if I really want this, I need to outwork other people. I need to get with people that want to do what I want to do. It's a lot easier to push yourself if you got somebody next to you who's shooting for similar goals.
Yeah. I think that like you're right from a time standpoint. Like I think like you can find time to be able to to be able to develop yourself. And I think the key to it as well, one of the keys I should say is understanding like what exactly does working towards development mean, right? Like it could mean that you're going to hit 4 days a week. Like you should shut down from throwing for some period of time. So, maybe you're not throwing, but get in the weight room, get in a weighted ball program, get in the gym or get in the cages, whatever it might be, take ground balls, whatever. You could do PFPs if you're a pitcher. You could do a whole slew of things from a dry work standpoint to get yourself better and prepared for what it is you're looking to do and get out of, your high school experience, but also if you're aspiring to play college baseball, to get to that level. Because if you can prepare yourself early, when you get to college, it's not going to be a shock for you to really start putting in more work, time, energy, and effort because you've already been doing it. And that, I think, we hear it from some of the people that are some of our guys that are in college now, like the adjustment to what they're trying to learn coming out of high school and into college is a lot. And we talked about it, on a recent podcast. So, it's not, this isn't something that's going to magically change. It's been the same since, we were in college to when I was coaching, you were coaching to now. This is an evergreen thing that will just always be. There's a learning curve that is very steep when you get into college from a baseball standpoint and from an academic standpoint mostly, but you're going to have to, the quicker that you can learn how to manage your time in high school to then be able to manage your time when you get to college from a development standpoint, the better off and further along you're going to be.
So we've hit the development pretty hard. And if you haven't gotten the gist of what we're saying, I don't know if we're going to get through to you at this point. But if you want this, you got to work hard at it. I think when you're talking strategy, for me at least, and I won't speak for you on this, Keith, I want to hear your thoughts, but if you're a 2025, I would suggest that if you're going to go and showcase yourself, right? If you're playing this fall, great. That's great. Go get your at-bats, go compete. Make sure you're proactively communicating with coaches, get your schedule out, post it on Twitter, like take advantage of the resources you have in front of you. They're not going to come see you if they don't know where you're playing. So take advantage of that. But if you're looking for targeted exposure, the best advice I could give is go to specific schools, camps that somebody has informed you in some way, shape, or form that that's a potential fit for you. Whether it's, hey, you're really close to being good enough to play for that program, I think it's a good idea for you to get in front of them this fall so that they have a reason to go see you first thing in the spring. Or, hey, I've already had some communication with these coaches. I want to go and show off and put forth a good effort. Go to those camps. I don't think you need to spend $1,000 to go get in front of a bunch of coaches right now if you're not ready to. And I think a lot of families make that mistake, is that if you're not a recruitable player right now, it's okay. The only people who are evaluating 2025s are Division I programs. It doesn't mean that you're not a Division I player. It just means that you need to get better. So if you're not getting that interest, or you're not quite there yet, if you're the righty who's 78 to 81, don't go to Virginia Tech's camp. They're not going to recruit you, right? Focus on getting better. So being able to self-evaluate there and understand what's going to be useful for you. For most guys, the vast majority of 2025s right now, the best thing you can do is focus on your development and don't worry so much about the exposure piece. And if you're going to go out and showcase yourself, do it in a targeted fashion. Go to a school that you love, that you think you have a chance to play for, and go show yourself off. Go meet those coaches. Go be a high character kid who plays with a ton of energy. Get feedback from those guys. I think that's the best use of money from an exposure perspective. And as far as seeing schools and stuff, I think if you have weekends where you have some availability, go visit some campuses. Go see some stuff. Start to collect information. I think that's really valuable, and I don't think a lot of families do enough of it, is go see some campuses. You don't need to set up an official tour. You don't have to meet with the coaching staff. Go see what different campuses look like, and make an afternoon out of it if you can. I think that's a really valuable use of people's time as well.
I think you're dead on, but I think you can pull it a little bit further along as well. From that's probably the best way that, regardless of whether it's now or next spring or next summer, next fall, like being able to legitimately know where you should spend your money and how can save you thousands of dollars plus time, energy, and effort in this process. Because, if you're a 2027 or a 2026, like there's not really a huge need for you to be at a showcase or camp that costs thousands of dollars. No one can really talk to you. The Division IIIs that are there working it won't recruit you until your senior year. So if you want to go for the experience and spend the money, then if you have the means to do it, then sure. But you can find an experience from a recruiting standpoint at, a lot of different camps, specifically targeted, on campus camps that are a lot cheaper, that you can get the experience that you're looking for. But the flip side to that is when you go to some schools that you're interested in, that are interested in you potentially, you're going to get some feedback out of there too. That's going to tell you like, yeah, I fit here, or no, I don't. And if you don't, you're going to have to be prepared for that. You might not get that at some of these other privately owned showcases and camps. They might tell you like, yeah, we think you're okay, or, hey, great job. But, you don't really know, right? Like it's a private business. Like they're in the business of having you be a repeat customer. So it's not a bad thing. A lot of these places and businesses don't get it twisted. Do a really good job and are a great service for everybody in this business. But you need to know, you need to do your research and understand what, like, if it's going to benefit you and your recruiting process. Like, it might not benefit you right now. It might benefit you next summer. So let's plan on going to 1 or 2 events next summer and take the money that you would spend right now in this fall and go to, get into a gym, get into a weighted ball program, whatever it might be. Take a weekend and go visit a campus. You can get into admissions visits and fall open houses and all these things that are going on campuses. And, it's an exciting time to get to campus because it's new and everyone's there and there's a lot of energy on campus. So you can kind of get a feel for what it is. And, the other part, to your point, you don't have to meet with the coaching staff. And the hard part is everyone is in the fall right now. So if you show up on a Saturday at noon, like, they're not really going to have availability to meet with you anyways, because they're on the field coaching their players. So if you just show up on, unannounced or, the night before, like, they're likely not going to meet with you, and that's fine. But it'd be nice, just, you can reach out, say, hey, we're coming if you have availability. Like, they might tell you, no, we're on the field practicing. If you want to swing by and watch, you can, but, I'll be out there coaching. So there's that aspect to it too. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you can get up and see the campus and you can see how they run a practice and you can get a feel just by watching, like, I think I could fit in here, and you have to be critical because it's the same, we'll pull this thread a little bit further too. We talk about going and watching college baseball games. Like, if you show up to a visit and they can tell you can watch a practice, like, same kind of thing. Like, you have to look at that and be like, hey, like, these guys are pretty good and physical. Like, I don't know if I fit here right now, or yeah, I fit. So like, you have to be able to be able to self-assess from that standpoint and see if you think you would fit in there as well. So there's a lot, obviously, that kind of goes into this. And we'll just kind of, you're going to have to, keep all of these things in mind. Obviously, you can write a checklist down, but, what you want to do first and foremost, after you kind of figure out where you fit and what you want to do is target places that, or at least do research on places and camps and clinics and showcases that are going to get you exposed to the coaches and the coaching staffs that you think you would like to play for, and then go from there. There's a lot.
The other thing I would add about the exposure piece is timing is critical. And a lot of it has to do, and this is probably a little bit more targeted to pitchers, but you need to be really honest about where you are in your build-up program before you go and throw in front of a coach, right? And it's not just about exposure. It's about staying healthy, right? If you're a Northeast kid and you don't throw a meaningful pitch until April 1st, and you're going to go to some workout in January where no coaches are going to be, and you're going to go blow it out, you better be ready to throw. And that shouldn't be, you just got on the mound 10 days ago, and you're ready for a 15-pitch bullpen. Like, your health is more important, because if you show up in the spring and you're hurt and you're not able to pitch, nobody's recruiting you off of a bullpen in January unless they've seen you throw in a game before and they feel really good about you as a pitcher. And then they go, oh, okay, his stuff ticked up this offseason. Yeah, maybe you get an offer, but it ain't going to happen because they're there. It's going to be happening because you took some video and you were communicating with coaches and you've already been in communication with coaches. But the last thing you want to do is risk your health for something that's not going to have, that is very unlikely to have an outcome from a recruiting perspective. I think it's huge for pitchers. I think the mistakes get made every offseason that people rush to get exposure, and you're either not ready to from a physical perspective in terms of talent, but you're also not ready to do it from a physical perspective in terms of where you are in your buildup as a pitcher. Don't make that mistake if you're a family.
No, it obviously changes because, player to player in what position you are. I've seen, and I've said this before on here, like, I stopped going to some camps and stuff in January when I'm watching kids from upstate New York and similar regions just blow it out on January 12th. Like, you're not pitching in a game until April. March, late March, April at the earliest. Like, so you're asking January, February, March, April, May, June. That's 6 months, and then you're going to want to pitch in the summer, and then maybe in the fall. Like, what are we doing? You need to be prepped in order to throw, but you need to actually you can't just walk off the hoops court and decide that you're going to go throw a bullpen on a Saturday because you signed up for this showcase that you got emailed about, and there's going to be a bunch of coaches there. You're going to want, if you legitimately want to get recruited and you want to play at the next level, you're going to want to make sure when you go to these showcases and camps and clinics that you're putting your best foot forward. If you're not going to be able to do that, you shouldn't go. There's nothing wrong with that. You just find other showcases, camps, and clinics later in the year when you are prepped and ready to go to attend. That's all it is. Nobody is recruiting anybody out of a January showcase. You might circle some names and follow up with them, but you're going to watch them in the summer and actually figure out whether or not they can play. That's it.
It's not COVID anymore. You're not rushing to commit kids off of video anymore. You don't have to.
And the difference here is you're not going to get recruited heavily out of that, but you can cross yourself off very quickly. And if you haven't thrown, and let's say you're a pitcher and you haven't thrown, you haven't done a lot of stuff, and you show up and you're 74 to 76 with no breaking ball because you haven't thrown in 7 months, you can get yourself crossed off a lot of lists just because you're not even close to being prepped. And then, if you waited and went to a couple camps, clinic showcases, in June, July, August, September, and all of a sudden, you're actually 82 to 84 with a pretty good breaking ball, you're on a lot more lists. And all of it is because, you weren't actually prepared on the front end. And, most kids, in my personal opinion, shouldn't be prepared to throw in January, unless you're
from Florida or California and your high school season's early.
And you're going to play because you have better weather. Yes. If you're from New York, where I'm from, you should not be throwing full tilt in January unless there's some outlier reason as to why. That's all.
You need to be recruitable in order to get recruited. So until you're putting up the numbers from a physical perspective that are going to get you in that conversation, just focus on getting better. Because to your point, the likelihood of a positive coming out of it is slim if you're not where you need to be, if you're not healthy, if you're not ready to go. And that first impression does matter. Yeah. Do guys get better? Yeah, absolutely. We've seen plenty of guys see big velo jumps and all that good stuff. But if my first impression of you is 75 to 77 and I get an email from you telling me you're 84 to 86, I'm probably not going to believe it. You might be 84, 86, but if I saw you at 75 to 77, I got to do my homework before I come and see you play again. So just make sure you're prepared. And I think this bleeds right over into the 26s in terms of, I think that directly applies to them. No coaches are going to be there. Off-season stuff. They can't talk to you. Unless you're a bro, probably best off really targeting very specific schools and focusing on getting better. It's really that simple. The 26 class, it's changed so much. If you were a legitimate Division I guy 2 years ago, how you go about your fall and your spring is different than it is now. Nobody's calling you. They can't. You might be awesome. You might be a dude who's a SEC scholarship guy, and that's great. But if you're that guy, you ain't got nothing to worry about anyways. Just go play. Make sure you got a little bit of a plan in terms of where you're going and the schools you're trying to look for. Target some of those high-end camps. But if you're that tweener 26, understand that you got a ton of time to get better. You got 2 years before anything really matters that much for the vast majority of kids. That junior spring is becoming the way that they've changed the rules, that junior spring is really becoming the time where most kids are going to get recruited now. Yeah, you'll have some kids who are going to go off the board who are 26s. They're going to go off the board in August, but those are the premium kids. They really are. And unless you fall in that very small subset of high school baseball, you don't need to panic. You need to keep your head down and stack a bunch of really productive days together and have a plan of attack so that you can stack the chips in your favor the best you can.
The 2026 and subsequent classes are, if you're a freshman, sophomore, it's you even pull further down the road on the development piece, on the getting bigger, faster, stronger, and I think finding, people who, one, can tell you the truth and give you those honest assessments. And then the other piece is, navigating the world of the summer travel baseball and trying to find, organizations that are going to be able to provide what it is you're looking for from a recruitment standpoint. If you're looking to get recruited and you've played with your boys on a local team your whole life, if you're not going anywhere, and you're not really playing in many tournaments or anything, you should not really expect to be recruited unless you're going to showcases and such. And the flip side is, understand that if you get into some of the big organizations, they have multiple teams. You never really know what, you lost my video, but that's okay. You never really know what is going on there. So it's, you want to do your research on the front end of, what am I going to get out of this summer organization? The prices that a lot of them charge and the things that they're going to ask of you, you're going to want to make sure that you have, a legitimate understanding of the tournaments that you're going to, how many games you're going to play, what coaches do we have, what track record do we have with what's going on here, from a recruitment standpoint, all the development standpoint, all of that. If you're going to be paying money for this, you should know what they have accomplished, what they plan on accomplishing, what you are doing, because you got to keep in mind, especially with these summer teams too, they don't put in the cost of travel and hotels and all the other things that go into it. So it's going to be more money. You want to know what tournament you're going to, what, is it worth it to go to Georgia if you're a 2026 or 2027? That's an honest question that's going to be asked over the next couple of years. Because it's not going to be recruited like it used to. So if you're going to go down there, what are you doing? You're spending money, in my personal opinion, what I think is going to happen, you're going to spend money to just spend money to go to Georgia. Go somewhere else. But
maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but if you're a 2026 right now, how about we focus on putting together a challenging high school academic schedule, knocking it out of the park from an academic perspective? You just got done with your freshman year. You're starting your sophomore year. Let's make sure that you keep as many doors open as possible from an academic perspective, right? The better you do in school, the more schools that are accessible to you. The other part of it is, the reality of it is college it's dumb expensive. And the better student you are, the more likely you're going to get academic money, merit-based scholarship money. And that's a huge piece of the puzzle. So let's start there. Step number 2, for a lot of 2026s, let's be honest, most of you guys probably didn't even play on your varsity team. So let's try to make the varsity team first and not worry so much about, am I getting recruited as a 2026? Let's check some important boxes first. And all that stuff will come with time, but I think that doesn't get talked about enough, because most 2026s right now are not recruitable at any level, right? They're not recruitable at the highest level of college baseball. So if you're not one of those guys, you still got a lot better. You got a lot of ground you got to cover in terms of getting better. And that's the reality of it. It's not to be mean. It's not to be off-putting, but you're 15 years old. You've got a lot of development to go. And if you're all clouded about running around to all these camps and showcases to try to get exposure, you might be spinning your wheels a little bit when you'd be better focused putting your head down and popping up in the spring and being awesome because you had a plan. You were dedicated to the weight room. You were working with good people from a skill perspective. You had somebody in your corner who was willing to give you good information so you could develop. I think that before you get to the summer ball stuff, which you hit on, I think is incredibly important information for people to evaluate. Who are you playing for? Where are you going? What type of player are you? Do you need to be going to some of these tournaments? Is it valuable for you? Now, it doesn't mean that you don't go. Georgia's fun, right? You're going to play against good competition. That's great. But is it necessary for you? Is it an expense that you're willing to factor in? Or could that money be better spent with development? Because once again, I think it all goes back to like you got to be recruitable before you get recruited.
You nailed it. You're going to have to. There's a progression to it, and that progression is going to slow down with the rule change and over the course of the next couple of years. Unless they change rules back and allow it to be the wild, wild west again, which I don't foresee happening. So there's going to be a progression to it, and it is going to be, make the varsity team and then go from there. And the other is like, I can, this is not understated, but like you're competing against everybody in the country who is looking to go play high school or college baseball. So you're going to have to outwork, again, 90% of people if you just want to play, get your foot in the door and have a roster spot on a team. That's not even play. So like you need to understand that this is a process, and you're going to have to maximize your opportunity to get to the level that you aspire to. You need to do all the things that you deem necessary to get there, and then probably more, because you don't know everything it is that you need to know about that process right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're comfortable with what you're doing, you're probably not doing enough. Like if your schedule's easy, if you're not tired, I'm not saying push yourself to exhaustion, but you shouldn't go long periods of not doing anything. Like you should feel like you're working, because you're going to have to work, right? Like if you don't enjoy the time spent in the gym, if you don't enjoy banging balls, if you don't enjoy getting better at throwing, if you don't enjoy working on the defensive thing, you're not going to enjoy college baseball. So find out if you love it now, because when you get to college, it's the bare minimum.
Yep.
And you got to pass that test. I think you got to pass that test from a desire standpoint, and for the parents, the kids got to want it. Like they have to want it. Like even your really talented kids, they have to be comfortable with the work that is required of them to excel where they want to excel. And if the parents want it more than the kids, that's something that happens where, mom and dad want the kid to play in college, and you wonder, well, how much does the kid actually want to do? So the kid's got to be bought in. I think that's really important.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So like there's a lot more that, again, I think we've touched on a lot of the things that go into this, and we're probably leaving, some out that we could go into a little bit more detail and even just mention. But like, these are the big things that as you're going through this process, not only as a student athlete, but as a parent and a family, that you want to consider and keep in mind of what you're doing. Because it's the more that you can educate yourself and know what's going on and where you fit in and what you need to do, the less anxiety you're going to have, the less money you're going to go spend, because you're going to target places and events and teams that are going to help you get to where it is that you need to go. And you can take that money that you saved and then put that into, development and a gym membership and whatever else it might be. Save it for when you have to pay for school. Some application fees, if you will, as it gets going. So, the more money you can save, based off of what it is that you're starting to figure out, and you can target some things and still get recruited, the better off you and your family will be.
Efficient and effective is the goal. And it takes some thought, I don't want to call it soul searching because I'm not sure if that's the right, but you got to do like a little bit of an internal assessment and a physical assessment to be able to put a plan together that you can execute that is going to be efficient from a money perspective, but effective from a development and an exposure perspective.
Yeah, nailed it.
All right. Well, I think that probably closes this out. Anything else you want to add, Coach?
No.
All right. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. Go ahead and follow us on Apple Podcast as well as Spotify. And you can check out what we do, who we are on Instagram, Twitter, at EMD Baseball, or visit our website, emdbaseball.com. Hope you enjoyed. Hit us up if you got any questions. We're happy to take any requests, cover any topics that need to be covered. And until next time, thanks, everybody.